Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to crack the code of an absolutely astonishing 4th century artifact that holds some powerful, hidden secrets about life and death. If you've ever wondered how early believers communicated their deepest hopes in a dangerous world, basically leaving coded messages in plain sight, well, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to read a piece of ancient stone like a secret text. Let's get into it. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll break down this stone puzzle step by step, starting with decoding ancient stone coffins, moving from suffering to triumph, cracking the Chiro code, blending two powerful worlds, and wrapping up with Pilate and the afterlife.
All right, Section 1, Decoding Ancient Stone Coffins. So we're talking about sarcophagi. Now, by definition, these aren't just your ordinary plain graves. Sarcophagi are these elaborate, heavily carved stone coffins. You see, for early Christians, these weren't just functional boxes to hold bodies. They were essentially massive visual billboards used to tell deeply important religious stories, specifically about life, death, and what comes next. Take a look at this beautifully preserved 4th century piece found in Rome. It's completely covered in carved images of the Passion of Jesus. But here's the absolute key takeaway. It wasn't carved just to remind people of a sad death. No, it was designed to reinforce a radical belief that Jesus' death and resurrection was a total triumph over sin and a really powerful sign of hope. Moving right along to Section 2, From Suffering to Triumph.
Look right here on the far left. We've got Simon of Cyrene helping carry the cross. It's a very grounded human moment showing that even Jesus needed physical help during that intense suffering. But right next to it, Jesus receives a crown. And if you look closely, something is fundamentally different from the traditional story. And this brilliantly illustrates our first major contrast. The artist made a very deliberate coded choice here. They literally swapped out the painful, humiliating crown of thorns for a jewel-filled crown. Why do that? Well, they're shifting the viewer's focus directly from the pain and suffering of the crucifixion to the ultimate triumph over sin. It's a massive visual upgrade from torture to total victory. Section 3, Cracking the Chiro code. Okay, so to crack this central code, we first need to remind ourselves what the title Christ actually means. It comes from Greek, meaning the anointed or chosen one. For Christians, Jesus is the one chosen to save people from sin through his death and his resurrection. Keep that Greek origin in mind because it is literally the key to this whole puzzle.
Right smack in the center, dominating the entire sarcophagus, is a formalized cross topped with an ancient symbol, the Chi. Now, the Chi is quite literally formed by mashing up the first two Greek letters of the title Christ, Chi and Rho. In early Christianity, this was the ultimate symbol of the resurrection. It's the artist's brilliant workaround to put Jesus right at the center of the story, but without showing him physically suffering on the cross. Section 4, Blending Two Powerful Worlds.
Ask yourself this for a second. Why on earth would early Christians put the visual language of the mighty Roman Empire onto a Christian burial object? Remember, this was an empire that had, until very recently, been actively persecuting Christians. So, what are these imperial symbols doing here? Let's translate these Roman visual codes. You see the eagles? Well, in Roman religion, eagles represented Jupiter, the king of the gods. Here, Christians just adopted them to represent the one true God. And surrounding the Chi is a wreath, the classic Roman symbol of military victory. Plus, look at the Roman soldiers stationed underneath. Instead of mocking Jesus or guarding a tomb, they're standing completely in awe of the resurrection symbol. Early Christians basically pulled off the ultimate ancient rebrand. They completely hijacked the empire's own imagery.
The crucial point here is that this artwork is a stunning blend of Roman cultural power used to elevate the Christian faith. They took the symbols of earthly imperial victory and cleverly repurposed them to represent a much greater cosmic victory over death itself. It's just a masterpiece of visual communication.
And that brings us to Section 5, Pilate and the Afterlife.
Over on the right panel, we see Jesus presented before the Roman governor Pontius Pilate. Notice how Pilate is shown washing his hands. This is a famous symbol meaning he refused to take personal responsibility for the execution, having totally caved to the massive pressure from the crowd and the Jewish authorities. It really represents the earthly injustice that kicked off the Passion narrative. Now, see how this brilliantly builds. We can actually read the events across the stone, but non-linearly. We start way over on the right with the injustice of Pilate's trial. Then we jump all the way to the far left to see the physical suffering of carrying the cross. And finally, we're drawn right back into the center, culminating in the ultimate spectacular victory of the Cairo. It's a full journey from earthly trials to heavenly triumph.
Ultimately, for anyone studying these concepts, whether for history class or your GCSE religious studies, this sarcophagus perfectly reinforces a core concept. The Passion narrative wasn't just about a tragic death. Through these specific carvings, it is emphatically presented as a triumph over sin and a massive, enduring sign of hope.
So, this wasn't merely a decorative box to hold a body. It was a bold, highly coded declaration. To the grieving family and anyone else who saw it, it shouted a profound belief in the afterlife and the eternal victory promised by their faith. It was meant to comfort, to inspire, and to declare a truth much louder than words ever could.
I just love how a block of stone can speak so loudly across centuries. I want to leave you with this thought to consider today. If you had to design your own modern symbols to communicate a message of ultimate hope and victory, what would you choose to carve into stone? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking closely at the world around you.